Hi guys, so we're going to EQ kick drum, and I'm using this drum mixing task tutorial. You might remember it from class. So I've got my kick drum soloed, and I've already gated it to get some of the background bleed from the other mics out the way. I could go and tune the gate a bit more, but it's okay for this example. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my EQ. Now, first of all, let's have a little look with the analyzer, what's coming in frequency information wise. Okay, so you can see quite a lot going on around here. That's the peak or the loudest frequency in this kick drum. Got quite a lot of information right in the sub bass range. Quite a lot going on here, around 150 to 180, and a bit up here as well, but a lot less. Okay, so what we want to do now is just think about how that kick drum sounds on its own before we start EQing it, because there's no real formula. Every kick drum's different and every track's different. But if we listen to the sort of qualities of this kick drum, it's quite thumpy. It's got a little bit of a pop as well. Quite boomy and quite thumpy in this sort of area, so maybe we could use EQ to sort of tune that a little bit, and so on. So let's have a little listen again. Okay, so as expected, it sounds like a kick drum, relatively well recorded. But to get started, let's have a look at this diagram. And what this does for each element of a mix is it maps what we call the subjective audio qualities. So frequencies within that certain track that we can manipulate in some way and change the tone in an audible way of that mix element. So this is telling me that on a kick drum between 0 and 30 hertz, so right in the sub bass region, right in the lowest threshold of our hearing, is the impact noise. So to put that simply, that is going to be the real air and boom of the kick drum. So let's go back to Logic. So we're going to be looking in around this area, and we can see there is quite a lot of impact noise or boomy sort of information in this kick drum. So I'm going to show you a technique called frequency scanning, and you do this with a bell filter. And what we do with frequency scanning is increase the gain, make the bandwidth relatively small or narrow, and we scan around the frequency range, boosting up and down and cutting, and seeing how that affects the signal. Okay, so I'm going to do that in the boom sort of range. Start from 0 and move up so you don't kill your ears, or if it's a really loud signal, start from low and move up. Okay, so I'm going to start from 0 in this case. Okay, and you can hear that when I boost by 24 decibels, which is a huge amount, the size of the kick drum appears bigger. It sounds a lot boomier and a lot more spacious. Now, for most instrumental music and rock music, this is not really a quality of the kick drum you want. So what we're going to do here is excuse me, effectively tighten up this kick drum by cutting those frequencies out. And in case you haven't already guessed, there's a much better filter tool on the EQ for doing this rather than the bell filter. We're just using that for our scanning technique. So we're going to deactivate that and activate our high pass filter, and we're going to go to the gain here. And on a low pass filter and a high pass filter, we've got these slope response tools. So this makes the size of the slope steeper or more forgiving, more narrow, like that. So we're going to choose a really steep response, and what we're going to do is scan in until we get rid of a bit of that boomy sort of sounding quality of the kick drum. Okay, that sounds good. You could hear the kick drum sounded tighter as we did that. Subtle, but by removing this boomy sub-bass information for your mix, it will allow you to mix everything else a lot better, and you're also removing overall volume from your mix, which will allow you more headroom at the end. We'll come on to headroom later, important word in mixing. So that's the first thing we've decided to do here. Let's go back to our subjective qualities chart and look at the next range or quality they suggest on the map here. So between 60 and 120, or more specifically between 60 and 80, so still in the bass range, they're suggesting that within this range on the kick drum, you're going to get a lot of the depth of the kick drum. So let's go back to Logic, same frequency scanning technique. However, we're going to move it to 80, and we're going to do is we're going to start at 0, move the bandwidth so it's nice and narrow, and we're going to play the track back, and we're going to explore this depth quality around here. Okay, so you could hear at 100 hertz where the highest peak of the kick drum is. By boosting it by 12, it really altered the sound of the kick drum, but not in a nice way. It now sounds, the word for it is resonant, very kind of boxy, and I see a lot of young producers sort of doing this sort of boost on their kick drum, so you get this sort of thing, in an effort to get a bigger kick drum. This is not how you get a bigger kick drum. You're just going to make your track click like that, distort or clip, and you're never going to be able to mix your things like your bass with it and stuff like that. Okay, so there's a combination of processing we need to apply to get the big kick drum, but what we can do is have a much less dramatic boost, should we feel we need it, around that area, and see if we can get a bit more depth or a bit more thud to the kick. We've already got quite a lot of thud, so intuition tells you that you're not going to need to boost too much. So let's go ahead and have a go. Okay, that sounds good. Let's reference it with that filter deactivated, and then we'll turn it back on again, and we'll hear the difference. So a lot thinner sounding, a lot clickier. Now put the boost on, and with it off again. Okay, another thing I'd like you to pay attention to when I'm turning this on and off is how the gain meter changes on this kick drum channel. So without the boost on, we're reading at -11, and you can see the meter level there. When I turn that boost on, that value has jumped to -7.1, and you saw the meter go up. That's because I am now adding plus 5.5 decibels of gain to that channel, right? So you've got to bear in mind that when you are boosting, you are adding volume to that channel, so you can easily make things distort. So that's why having big boosts like that is going to sound horrendous and make your track clip like that. So let's get that back to how we wanted it. Okay, that sounds good. So let's move on to the last quality that they suggest in the kick drum we should look for, and that is up in the high mid regions, and they call this the slap. Put simply, this means the sound of the beater hitting the skin of the kick drum, and they're suggesting that's around 2.5 kilohertz. So go back, we're going to use this light blue bell filter here, get a bit of gain, we're going to narrow the bandwidth right down, and we're going to explore around this region, starting at 0 though, and see if we can find the beater. We should be able to see it on the waveform as it comes in as well. Okay, and you should hear that that gave a little bit of a sort of clicky sound to the kick drum, which is really important for timing and helps the kick drum cut through the mix. Listen to it with it off. And with it on. Okay, that sounds good. So we've exhausted our 3 areas here, but there's one they haven't really included here, and that's around this sort of region here. And this is where kick drums can often suffer, and it's where we get quite a muddy sort of sound out of the kick drum. So I'm going to use this light green filter here and just try and show you that. On our waveform originally, you can see that there's quite a lot of information here and here. So let's go ahead and boost that around where that second little peak after the thud is, and see what that sounds like boosted up. Okay, so that is a horrible frequency. So we're going to go ahead and take that out and compare it with it off. And now with it on. Increase the bandwidth a bit. Turn it off again. Okay, maybe I've gone a bit too steep there, but okay, I hope you can hear that. It's sort of tightened it up and made it sound less boxy, if that makes sense. Really cleaning up that sort of area. There's other areas we could explore, like around here, same technique, frequency scanning. You can have a little scan around and see what frequencies sound good or bad. But those are the common sort of areas to look for in a kick drum. Okay, so remember, golden rule. No huge boosts in the bass range, otherwise you're not going to be able to mix the track. And always use your ears. Okay, so thanks for watching.